Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between to the Pixel Scandal NerdCast. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about setting expectations and safety tools in RPGs. But before we get to our topic, we're probably going to kibitz a little bit about what we've done lately. Let me go ahead and introduce you to our wonderful cast. We've got End of Line.
Hello.
Gidget.
Hi.
Night Sun.
Yo.
Orestez.
Hello.
And Handor.
Hello.
Welcome, everybody.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is our earliest cast yet.
Coffee.
Yay.
Totally coffee.
Yeah.
NerdCast.
My coffee's
Sponsored
too
by
hot
coffee.
still.
Aw. Burn your mouth. Well, awesome. All right. So, end of line. Do we have any announcements, upcoming streams, anything to announce?
The big one is definitely going to be at 9 a.m. We're going to be starting our first cast of Dungeon World, which is a tabletop RPG. It'll be the first Paper Scandal episode that we'll be doing. I would definitely suggest checking that out. Tomorrow, Sunday at 4 p.m., we'll be continuing our Let's Play series of Castle Crashers, which we had a lot of fun playing last week, surprisingly. It's pretty chaotic.
I was actually really good at it.
Yeah.
I was really shit at that game.
Katie was destroying everything.
Maybe someone will figure out how to get a controller up and running for tomorrow.
Right?
I will make that happen. That must happen. That is non-negotiable.
Dude, playing that game with a keyboard was not okay.
It was not
Especially trying to do
enjoyable at all.
magic.
It was definitely a really fun game. All right, so what are we all excited about? Is there anything anybody wants to announce that you're excited about?
I know there's a couple of us that are either interested or feigning interest on my behalf to make me feel better. But they've been doing a lot of live streams with popular streamers for Pantheon MMO.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
They just did another one this past couple of days. They've done about 6 of them so far, and so they're bringing in people who have never played the game or not in alpha, some that have varying degrees of experience in this kind of MMO, and kind of letting them tear up a dungeon, and they're playing with the
Nice.
developers and stuff. So it's worth checking out if anyone's interested in that game or has played older generation MMOs with the risk versus reward threat system and penalties for dying and having to actually be careful, not respawning and running.
So just between you and me,
Mhm.
nobody else is watching. Is this all a ruse to be part of that program?
What do you mean?
So you can get on live and play with the developers?
No, well, I'm actually
Pixel Scandal.
That's the whole point.
I've been signed up for non-pre-alpha alpha streaming and beta streaming for like 6 to 8 months already. So my name's already been on the list for almost a year for streaming Pantheon because when they do release lift the NDA and streamers are able to publicly stream, that will be something I will tell you now. You'll be seeing a lot on this channel.
I can tell you the only reason I joined Pixel Scandal was to get press passes to E3 and PAX.
I don't think it works that way. If they gave press pass to every little 2-bit streamer with 5 viewers, no one would pay for it.
I'm just getting in at the ground level,
It's
I gotta
an investment.
Put my dues in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to, he's going for that 2023.
It's a yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
It's
slow
a long term. It's a long
slow
term.
grind.
It's a lot.
This is a grindy
This
MMO.
is the long
Twitch,
game here.
Yeah.
Which
It's a
is
long
the
con.
grindiest.
Yeah,
Long
we're in the
con.
long con.
If you're watching this on YouTube, once it gets uploaded, I'll put some links on the bottom to some of the Pantheon content if you want to check it out.
Well, as our resident do-gooder here,
I'm sorry,
I would like-
what?
it's true. I would just like to say that today is National Pay It Forward Day, so don't be a dick today and try to be nice to other people.
Aw.
Don't be a dick any day,
I'm gonna be stuck in the house all day.
but especially today, I guess.
Yeah, just
Well, can we couple that with International Tabletop Day? So pay it forward and run a game for someone?
It is also International Tabletop Day.
It is, yeah.
Which we're going to be running a tabletop game later. So, look, we did it, guys.
We are paying it forward.
We played
to
a game
each
on
other.
International Tabletop Day, and we're going to share it with the world.
There you
We
go.
haven't played it yet though.
No,
So
it'll
I
come. It's to
I just realized what I'm excited about then, if that's the case.
that?
Later, I'm sure we'll probably be playing World of Warcraft. And just to catch everybody up, you guys have convinced me, and I am now.
See, we fucking told you.
1 week.
Listen last
It took
week.
us 1 week to get you in.
Yeah, I honestly I meant every word that I said last week,
course you
and
Sure you did.
I am now subscribed. I have the collector's edition of Battle for Azeroth.
Do tell.
Oh my god, it's over.
So I've already
Pre-order
I've-
already?
yeah, I did.
Oh.
He already
Yep.
boosted a character. He boosted a mage like yesterday. He
What?
He totally
What?
popped in Discord, and I'm at work, and my phone goes bloop, and I'm like, okay, I'm busy. So I look at it an hour later, and I see Handor saying, "So what class should I play on WoW?" And I was like, "I win the pot."
I was at work. I saw that come up, and I was like, "Oh, you must be playing WoW." All right.
It's like it's over.
Yeah, so I'm excited because Gordon, Night Sun, sorry, and End of Line had to be nice to me today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
they don't
sorry.
have.
How
They
does that
don't,
work out?
they don't have to, but
What do I get out of this party?
there was a small glimmer of hope and expectation that
Maybe that would happen.
yeah.
Little
Yeah.
does Handor know we're nice to him every day because we could be so much worse.
That is very true. But Handor, you rolled a mage. What do you like? You're encroaching on my thing, on my jam, man.
Honestly,
he
look,
boosted a mage,
yeah.
but he's
He has
leveling.
no
What are you
idea how to
leveling?
play it.
He's leveling another.
Holy
Paladin.
Paladin, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, holy.
We have another paladin in the mix.
Yeah.
So-
Everyone's a paladin.
Yeah. Alright.
And everybody can ridicule me if they like, but and to make you feel better, Gidget, I boosted a mage because there was no one around to make me food.
Oh my dear God.
Let's sum this up. He boosted
You
a character
motherfucker.
to summon tables.
No.
Now we have a portal bitch. I'm not mad at that.
Now,
So
I have
that's
to
good.
ask, does the table remain available to you after you log out and log back in?
No, I just made sure that somebody was on that I could trade with.
We were grabbing biscuits to trade to him when he swapped over. Is what we were doing.
Got it.
Wow,
It was
man.
hilarious.
Oh my God,
It was
that's
so funny.
hilarious.
My eyes are watering. I know.
Oh.
It's bad.
It's not a bad call.
I do want to apologize to anyone watching this. The doggo in the back is going to be scraping his cone against walls, and I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah, he has an epic cone right now.
You can see him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. There you go. There's Moose.
There's the doggo.
He got a cybernetic tail implant, and they're waiting for it to heal up.
Yeah.
They're turning him into a superhero dog.
Yep.
Yeah.
So on the topic of what we're excited for, I'm getting
Yeah.
Kingdom Death on Monday.
Oh.
Oh,
So-
Oh, yeah.
Admittedly, I checked it out. I went to the website and looked at it, and the models are freaking insanely amazing.
Yeah.
Like, those things look amazing. But like, what is
Yeah.
the game though? Like, I can't understand. I look at the website. I went and looked, and I'm like, what is the freaking game part? Like,
So,
what is the
Dude,
game?
it's... Go ahead, Gordon. You
Okay,
probably
so-
actually know more about it than me. I just want the game.
So think of like it is the game is broken up into two main parts. Part one is a civilization building system where you have events, these people got married or everyone contracted syphilis or something. And
I'm
you-
out. I'm not
probably
going
in
through
a- that's-
syphilis again.
That's probably
Again.
Again.
and you research
Again.
and you get technologies, like on we have huts and this gives us certain benefits, or you craft things. The second half is your monster hunter, where you and a band of people go out and hunt a monster down and stab it in the face many times. However, the difficulty curve is along the lines of a what is that stupid game? And now I'm thinking
Dark Souls.
Dark Souls, where the game is incredibly punishing. You will die. The end. Like, and it's a lot about making mistakes to learn, sort of like how we just were discussing last week, where it's oh, okay, that monster breathes fire. All right, let's not stand in front of it. And so you go around and you kill.
That's always a good rule. Don't stand in front of the fire-breathing dragon.
Yeah.
So you go around, you kill the monster, and the monster will drop stuff for you. And then you take that stuff back and you learn how to craft with it, and you get better gear. And as time progresses, you fight bigger and bigger monsters. But from the ground up, the game is designed to hate you.
Just like I do.
And so you're always on the cusp of losing. It's yeah.
Sounds complicated.
It is incredibly complicated. But it looks like an incredible amount of fun.
So does the village persist? Like, do your advancements persist, and you just make like a new villager to run out and fight more monsters?
Yeah, it's a campaign.
Yeah, so it goes on for 30 years, and each cycle of turns is a year. And so the idea is, so long as someone makes it back successfully, you get all the loot, and then you grab some other villagers, and they're your new adventuring squad.
Okay.
Yeah, like after the first outing, you come back to town and you set up your civilization, your little village or whatever, and then you roll to see how many extra villagers you get. And then you, that's kind of like your pool of lives. So, if you go out and one guy dies, you come back to the village and you're like, hey, you're in our group now. Come on, we're going to go fight this lion that has human hands because it's a horror game.
But the whole thing is a lot of like random tables and lots of random events and whatnot. So everything you do is different. The same event can even play out a different way. So it's very, very big.
That sounds really awesome, actually.
Yeah, I thought so. So that'll be coming on Monday. So I'm gonna get that and.
Oh, we should do an unboxing.
Oh yeah.
The problem with an unboxing of that is it is one very, very like the box is about as long as the bigger blacker box.
Oh, but like
Yeah,
I've seen pictures. It's
But board game size in
Yeah.
width. So
It
it is a
was-
huge box. There's a million pieces.
It weighs about 20 pounds, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And I'm not sure if the content of the manuals is Twitch appropriate.
No, it's not.
Oh. Okay.
Boobs and blood is kind of the thematics they're going
Lot-
for.
A lot of tits in that game.
Yeah.
What's wrong with tits?
Well,
No, not a thing.
Twitch has a problem with
Thanks.
tits.
Thanks,
Freeze and
Tyler.
nip. Twitch, what's your problem?
So yeah, that's what I'm excited for.
That sounds awesome.
Awesome. Cool.
I'm
I'm
sure we-
excited to get to play that.
Yeah.
Pretty sure we just got demonetized and
no.
and have no hopes of
Not
ever.
again.
All right. So what's everybody been playing? Obviously, WoW.
Yeah.
Wow, a lot of wow.
Wow.
The last week.
A
I
lot
have
of
not been
World of
playing-
Warcraft.
Anything this week, which is very
Yeah.
sad.
It's all right. We're gonna catch you up.
I've been playing
Yeah.
God of War.
I've been on doggo duty.
That is, yeah. I've been watching.
Boy,
I really want to play Dad of
boy.
War.
Dad of War.
Boy.
Yeah,
Dad of
It's
War?
literally my favorite thing about like what they've done with that game is. I think that's why Last of Us was so successful. Is it had that kind of.
Dude, it looks awesome.
Emotional
The game looks
connection.
amazing.
No, it is
It's a great game, but the boy Atreus is like such an asshole. I can't stand
Yep.
him. I wish he could take damage.
So what you're saying? So what you're saying is
You wish I could take that.
he's a child.
No, he starts off and he's like a wussy little wussy little kid who's like always whining and crying and whatnot. And then for
His
like
mom just died.
spoilers,
Spoiler, sorry.
And
It's
then
in the
for,
friggin'
like-
intro.
and then for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, it's like, all right, this little kid's pretty badass. And then you tell him something about his past, and now he's all like, I don't care, I'm a badass. I'm gonna do whatever I want. You can't stop me. Let's go murder everybody in the world, and who cares about their problems?
When Orestes went to buy the game at a store, I'm presuming he went to a store, probably not. They should have had something on the box art that said empathy required, and they were like, I'm sorry, I
No.
can't sell you this game.
You must be this empathetic to ride.
I'm
Oh
sorry.
my God.
Look,
I can't sell you this game without a guardian.
I'll tell you the
Uh,
honest truth. The main reason I bought it is because we were at GameStop looking at a game for the boy, and they had God of War there. And I was like, they had a bunch of the big boxes behind the register on the shelf back there. And so I was like, oh, you guys have God of War? And he was like, yeah. And he was like, did you pre-order it? And I was like, well, for one, it's a major blockbuster title. I'm not going to pre-order a blockbuster title because you're an idiot, and that's not how anything works. Do you have any collector's editions? And he was like, no, we only got what we pre-ordered. Typical GameStop MO. And he was like, you're never gonna find one though, so just take this one. And I was like, I don't like your attitude. So I spent the rest of the day tracking down the Stonemason edition, and I found one at the local Best Buy. So I went and got it, and then I was telling Elle, like, she was annoyed at me because I was like, I want to take this into GameStop and ask them how much they'll pay me for it.
right.
Because obviously I'm not supposed to have it. It's very expensive, so I could probably get triple of what I paid for it.
Yeah.
Like, no,
Nope,
we're not.
they'll give you
basically unique
37
item.
cents.
Yeah. Or
We're
store
not-
credit.
We're
So-
not doing that.
let me point out, to be fair to
There's
what
no being
Orestes
fair
is
to-
saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. To what he was saying, Neebs Gaming, Jacksepticeye, and one other group that I watched play, a good 6 hours of the God of War, and they all have titles in about the third episode, saying, "This kid's an asshole," or "I hate this kid."
Uh-huh.
And so this is a shared feeling.
So what
So
you're
it's
saying
not
is
just me.
streamers
All-
don't have empathy.
All the popular streamers don't have empathy. I'm lifting you guys up.
What I'm hearing is that the popular streamers probably don't have children.
Probably not.
Well, that's how you get away with streaming 12 hours a day.
I saw
Yeah.
That is
I
true.
saw a cartoon on Reddit, of course, where this says playing God of War as a dad, and like the kid said, "I can't believe she's dead," and the dad's like struggling. It's like, "How do I press X to hug?"
Yeah, right?
Dad's all stressed, "How do I hug?"
Yeah, see, that would be me playing that game. I'd be like, I need to hug this poor boy. The reason he's being an asshole is because of his feels.
Oh my gosh.
That's not the reason he's an asshole.
Well, I mean, I feel like everyone's an asshole because they just need more hugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Who
right,
else
well,
we have to talk
It's
about?
quiet in here.
I
Means
mean-
you all
on-
think I'm right.
on that note,
Yeah,
I feel
on that note,
awkward. I feel
let's-
awkward. I don't like hugs.
Yeah, making me acknowledge the fact that I have an emotion.
hugs are great,
Sorry,
man.
guys. This is what makes me
Get
the
y'all's
most-
dopamine.
the most empathetic person in our group. So let's move on to our spotlight topics. Setting expectations and safety tools in RPGs.
Yeah, that's me. That's the thing I wanted
Helmets,
to talk about.
shoulder
Yeah,
pads,
this is
elbow pads.
all the safety tools.
Yeah, definitely knee pads. You're gonna want
Eye guards.
Where's the
Yep.
X card?
safety
Definitely
glasses.
D20.
Definitely want glasses.
When someone has a really fumbling D20, they throw dice. You have to have eye guard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
Well,
so I'm
usually you throw dice backwards over your shoulder when you do that. so-
Yeah, but then you hit the other table at a con. You knock someone out with a metal
That is very
D20.
true.
yeah. Gotta
Yep.
be careful.
I've definitely had dice land on my table at an RPG.
Yeah.
We got a
So-
bunch of free dice from. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Kurt. This is your topic. Take it.
Yeah. Well, let's start it with a little tale.
A sad tale.
So a sad tale. So recently, a friend of mine had perhaps invited me to play a friendly RPG game. And I asked the kind of questions I typically ask when we're starting a game, like what's it going to be about, and are we making our characters together? What's the tone of the game? Type stuff. He couldn't tell me, and they weren't making their characters together. So I had some red flags. Also, it was Pathfinder, so there's that. Unfortunately, I could not make the first session. And when I heard back how it went, I was not entirely surprised, but I was still disheartened. Apparently, they had gotten into several rules conflicts to the point where there was quite a bit of screaming, and the GM's girlfriend ended up crying, and one of the players was not allowed back at their house anymore.
Oh,
So
jeez.
I wanted to talk a little bit about how to set expectations for what you're going to experience in a game, and some safety tools if things become all too much for you, or something comes up that you're not prepared to deal with. How to address those topics as adults in a group of people.
Run out of the room screaming.
Yes, run from the room screaming.
Always.
Light something on fire. These are great ways to solve these problems. But if you don't want to do that, you can try some other stuff. I put together a little bullet list that I'll kind of go through and talk about each one, and maybe we can break them down. But the first thing is setting expectations. Something you're going to want to talk about is, what's the campaign duration? Is this going to be a one shot? Are we going to do like 3 to 5 of these? Is it indefinite? That's fine too. Like, I want to run this until my eyes fall out of my face. But it gives the players some sense of their commitment, and some sense of the types of stories they can tell in that game, and the type of progression they can expect. So if you're playing something like Pathfinder, you're wanting to level, right? Like, if you're going to play for 3 years, or you're expecting to play for 3 years, then starting at level 1 is not such a bad problem, because you're going to get past it. But if you're going to play 6 sessions and the game's going to be over, maybe you're not interested in playing 1 to 5 again, right? Like, those are conversations you could have. It's also if you want to tell like a story about a character who finds redemption over a long arc. That's not going to happen in 3 sessions. So you might want to change up the types of characters you make, or the types of stories you're going to try to tell. Something else you want to bring up is session duration, the frequency of sessions, and scheduling. Session duration, what am I in for? Is this a 2-hour game, a 4-hour game? Are we going to meet in the morning on Saturday and we'll see each other till Sunday? Like, what am I in for?
Can I jump in on that?
Yeah, come on in.
As a GM who has had several groups, ran several games for newer players who didn't exactly understand the structure of playing RPGs and how long a game typically runs and that kind of thing, it's definitely an important conversation to have about the frequency of games and how long the sessions are going to be. If someone's like, yeah, I'm going to come over for like 2 hours, we're going to play an RPG and then I'm going to go, or I'm going to come over for an hour and a half and then I'm going to go, when a typical RPG session is around the 4-hour mark. That can be, I think, an important conversation to have, especially with people who are new,
right?
Because they don't already know what people who've been playing RPGs for a long time just go, okay, about 4 hours, right? And so that can be difficult on the GM, who's like, we only got through like a quarter of what I had originally thought. And also, the pacing of games. If someone's feeling like every 12 games is a story arc, and each game was only 2 hours, that's the equivalent of like 3 games in a normal RPG time. It's an important conversation to have so that the GM and the players all feel like they're coming in with the same expectations.
If you're a new player, or if you're someone that's played tabletop games, then you know this already. But if you haven't, let me make it clear to you. You cannot get much accomplished in 2 hours or 3 hours, and sometimes even 4 hours.
Yeah.
And RPG tabletop games, if you're really invested and the GM is good, that 4 hours is gone like that.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it is.
I mean, you can do a 2-hour game I've
Right.
done 2-hour games.
Oh yeah.
But you need to know what you're in for, and I think you need buy-in for a 2-hour game.
Well, the other problem is these tend to be your friends, people you actually like. And it
Mhm.
might be the only, if you're playing monthly or what have you, this might be the only time you see them in a given month.
Mhm.
So even in a 4-hour session, it's pretty common that first 30 minutes, that first hour
You're
is
catching
eaten
up.
up by bullshit.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
catching up with each other and
Everyone-
talking about what happened in the week.
Yeah,
you know?
everyone getting, and even just getting settled into the table, getting your snacks and your drinks and your dice out.
Yep.
Well, and God forbid an argument arises and the whole should we take a boat, should we walk argument starts, and that's going to eat up an entire
Not that.
hour. And then, or 2 hours almost. And
Yeah.
then your 4-hour session was really an hour and a half of actual gameplay with a half an hour of pre-chit chat and 2 hours of boat walking argumenting.
That was an actual game of ours. We
It was.
actually
Yeah.
took up almost an entire 3-something hour just mulling over the best course because it was such a fork in the campaign.
Yeah,
And-
and the group was exactly
Man.
split on should we take
Yeah.
a boat or should we walk, and no one was giving. So we just argued for 2
Yeah.
hours, which was fine. It was like we
Yeah.
laugh about
I
it
don't
to
know
this
if
day.
it was fine.
I mean, the thing that got me is when I found out after the session that the GM just hadn't prepped anything, and rather than like try to wing it, he just
Instigated the
He
fight.
kept looking at one person who was about to give and saying, "Are you sure you want to take that boat?"
Yeah, yeah, that's
Oh,
true.
dear
That was
Lord.
that was an instigated argument.
Yeah.
But no, going back to the topic at hand, though, having that pre-conversation of how often we're going to play, because if the GM's like, this campaign is really important that you remember details and that, we're very invested in what's going on, so I'd like to play weekly so
Mhm.
that we carry over, or, maybe it's like, okay, so we're going to try to get a lot done in each session, so we're only going to play once a month, but I want to play for 6 hours, or I want to play, really, we all need to be focused for the 4 hours we're playing, or whatever it is. If you don't have those pre-conversations of what this game is going to feel like, somebody somewhere, whether it's the player or the GM, is going to be upset by the pacing or the way the game is feeling because you didn't have that pre-set up. And I've
Yeah.
fallen into that trap before where I didn't communicate with my players, and then they were like, "It's been 2 hours. I want to go home now." And I was like, "Oh
Mhm.
no, that's not."
And not only that, but if you
Okay.
don't set those expectations, you may even get one player for one game, and then they
Right.
bow out, and then you have to replace them possibly, and then someone has to start
Right.
over, and you go through all that.
Yeah.
Right.
And you
Especially.
shouldn't- Especially
go
in the
ahead.
case of newer players, you should encourage them that if they don't feel they can make that kind of commitment, that it's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
say
it's
no.
totally
Like,
fine.
Everybody's grown-ups. We got jobs. We have lives and families.
I
Like,
think typically when you
gaming
play
is our
with
hobby.
people who've been playing RPGs for a long time, you understand that when you sign up for a game, you're committing to the run of that arc, which may be 6 months, or it may be, whatever it's going to be. And it's probably going to typically be about a 4-hour game, unless the GM says, "Oh, hey, I can only do 2-hour sessions," or whatever. Like, you come in with those, okay, this is what the typical RPG is. But when you have newer players or inexperienced players, I think it makes it even more important that you have those conversations.
Mhm.
Okay, sorry. Next
No,
bullet point.
that's it. So yeah, so session duration, frequency, and scheduling. How often are we going to play? When are we going to play? How long will we be playing for? Something else you want to discuss with the players and make sure that they understand up front is the level of engagement that's going to be required. So if you're playing a dungeon crawl like hack and slash game where there's not a lot of character backstory, usually the only impact on the characters is going to be what character are you playing? What are the mechanics that you need to understand to play your character effectively? That's like the level of engagement that you're required to do. And then like know what you're going to do on your turn, right? If you're playing something that's a little more story focused, then the players you may want everyone to be able to write a backstory, right? You may want them to have 5 or 6 bullet points on what they're about. If you're super into it, maybe you want 3 pages of backstory. It's not me, but cool. Put that up front. Like, let them know what their level of engagement is. And for instance, in our Dungeon World game today, Apocalypse World games are typically really heavy engagement for both the GM and the players because the players sort of drive the story. So the level of engagement in our game is going to be really high because there's going to be a lot of what do you do and not a lot of someone tells you to do this, how do you do it, right? There's going to be a lot of me asking you guys what you want to do and then you adding to the thing, or me turning questions back to you if you're character is, say, the definitive source for that, right? So our game is probably going to have a high level of engagement from the players. So that's something that you should know. And if it's something that you're not comfortable providing, if you're a player and someone says, well, you're going to have to come up with these 3 pages of backstory, that's something you're going to want to address at the beginning. Say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with that. I can't write that much. I don't want to talk that much. Make sure that's out there out front and that everybody's okay with it, right? Because you don't want to get 5 sessions in and everybody's like, oh, you're so quiet. Why aren't you talking? Where's that backstory? I asked for it last week.
Or the opposite, where are those monsters and why can't I kill them? And this is a higher RP game where there's
Right.
going to be a lot of social engage
Mhm.
and a lot of role playing instead of just hacking and slashing and killing everyone. And if you're the type of role player, RPG player that likes the dungeon crawl and likes the murder hobo, and that's the kind of player you like to be, and it's an RP game, you're going to be bored. And vice versa. If you love to RP and you get yourself into a dungeon crawl, you're going to be bored because there's no one to talk to. There's just monsters to kill.
Yeah.
Although I will say you can turn any RP game into a hack and slash dungeon crawl with just a roll of a die.
Assuming
Yeah,
the game
we
has
know
mechanics for it, yes, that is correct.
If it has a stat
we know
block,
that.
kill it.
Stop talking to my experience points. And
I
that
feel like that might be Night Sun's solution to a lot of situations in RPGs.
so
I have an
so-
adventure for you. I have a roll initiative for you.
it's like in this game the players say roll initiative.
Unless you're playing
happens
Savage
often.
Worlds, then it's give my cards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
give my
Give my
cards.
cards.
Just
Uh-huh.
give Arrestes half the deck, and the rest of us will each take a
I'm
card.
fitting to wreck this fool.
Yep.
Give me my cards.
Stupid question, but why haven't you just given him the deck of cards and he doles them out?
It would
I
be
don't
easier.
know.
I
It-
feel-
it would be way
I don't know.
easier.
Can I trust you? He has a lot of cards. It'd be real easy.
I was gonna say though,
Cheat.
I feel like he would start stacking the deck. I mean, that
Every once in a while he
Joker
just
would
draws
just
a card
be
and
sliding
picks
to the bottom, right?
I feel
When he-
like I would shuffle in the treasure deck into the initiative deck, and I would just be like, card for you, card for you, card for me. Oh, look, I got a +4 full play.
You don't get to
That's
go
weird.
this round, but you do get a
Yeah.
But
treasure.
you
You
get-
spend your
you
round
get
finding
treasure.
some treasure.
You start raising the red flag whenever it's like mid-July and Orestes is showing up to the table for Savage Worlds with a long sleeve shirt on.
Like, hey, wait a minute.
Jokers are just falling out of his.
Right. So that kind of leads into my next bullet point here, which is tone, rating, and genre.
Hmm.
Setting the tone for a game is really important to do up front.
Absolutely.
Is this going to be a silly game? Is this going to be a hack and slash game? Are we going to be really serious? Is it a horror game and we all need to be invested? Is it a horror game and it's Scooby-Doo? Like what tone are we looking for?
Mhm.
And is everyone on board? Because if one person is like, no, this is Monty Python, and then everyone else is like, this is Game of Thrones, you're going to have a bad time. But
Yeah.
if everybody's doing Monty Python or everybody's doing Game of Thrones, hey, you're going to have a good time, right?
I feel like horror is a weird genre because most of the time those end up as Scooby-Doo.
Well, horror is the one genre I feel that requires 100% investment
Yes.
100%
Yeah.
of the time.
Mhm.
Because second that bubble is burst,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the tension, all the suspense, all of the buildup
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
dies, and then you're left with Scooby-Doo.
Mhm.
It is very possible to do like, especially anything in the Cthulhu mythos, is very good for building up the suspension, the tension
Mm-hmm.
of the unknown and what's going on. It's but as soon as one person at the table cracks a joke, it can slip and slide right down into the Scooby-Doo, and it will never recover. Whereas a lot
Right.
of other genres, serious, silly, otherwise, there is ebbs and flows to every game where
Mhm.
this situation might call for no. This is we're at the funeral. Let's
Everybody calm the fuck down.
Everybody laugh.
yeah.
Where one person's over there, I kicked the foot out from under the casket.
Right. Yeah, that's
But in the same note, there's always those comic relief moments, even in those serious games, where
Yeah.
it's time for the, okay, here's the silly NPC that is just
Battle of the
there
Bands.
the battle of the bands. Or,
You find a gnomish map maker in
Right.
the middle of the dungeon. Guess
Well,
what?
the reason I bring up Battle of the Bands is in that game, I felt like we were pretty serious most of the time with in that Shadowrun game we were playing, and we were pretty serious. There weren't a lot of joking around, except for when Kurt would take drugs in the game, but that's a different
Dude, my character
subject.
loved drugs.
But then just a random game of we're going to do Battle of the Bands this game. It was hilarious, and it was a completely different tone, and it was kind of fun to play very serious characters in a funny way for one game, right? But then go back to the serious another game. But like you said, tone is really important. If we were joking and silly like that all the time, then that suspense of that game wouldn't have been there had we been as silly like that all the time.
Yeah.
I think 10 Candles is a good example of a game that you need a lot of buy-in for. We're going to be playing that in a couple weeks.
Well, 10 Candles is once again the kind of that horror feel to it.
Right, and
Dread,
everyone
10
has to have
Candles.
the buy-in, or it's hokey and it's not there. Or the Dread game, when we were playing End of Line's Dread game, if we weren't all really into it and actually kind of scared of losing fingers and what was going to happen to us, that game could have felt very 13 Dead and Drive board game, not not actually scary like it felt.
So yeah, I mean, and that, speaking of horror games, something else you're going to want to consider there is the rating, right? Like, just go ahead and use movie ratings as a shorthand, but talk about the type of subject matter that you're willing to get into. Like, are there people at the table that want to stay PG? Like, know that ahead of time before you start dropping weird sex stuff into your games. Are there people that want to go super hard, but nobody else is into it? They need to know that they can't go to that place.
Sorry, go on.
Well, I mean, it's just be respectful of everyone else and say the things out loud. Speak the unspoken rules. Like, don't assume that everyone else has your level of comfort on a subject, because it's not true. There's no way that everyone feels exactly the same way you do about everything. And a lot of times we sort of walk through life kind of hoping everyone's on board with us and not really saying it out loud. So that's really important.
Our tables are probably a good example of the no holds barred. I think everything's pretty much on limits, the most part. But I couldn't imagine in a million years thinking any of us would just bring some random person to the table and we wouldn't be like, okay, we're at a 20, we need to bring it down to a 7 until we gauge this person or be clear about what are your expectations. Because it would be a rough game for someone that sat at our table and just like, look, I'm not comfortable with this, and we didn't bring it down.
Yeah,
it'd probably be really uncomfortable at our table because we're very outspoken. We, it's a lot of cursing and,
Well, we even still, like, we have a long running campaign now where everyone is murder hobos. For lack of
we're evil, horrible people in that game.
My character owns a brothel and a bunch of whores. So yeah, I mean,
I've never killed a single thing.
Roxy's killed a lot of people.
You poured acid in that one dude's throat.
You literally poured acid down a guy's throat once.
Yeah, you did.
I feel like he could have survived.
An innocent shopkeeper.
Yeah.
But before that game, we all had a discussion like, hey, we want to do an evil campaign.
We're going to be really evil.
Everyone's going to be bad people. Like,
and we were all like,
okay with it? Can you accept this, right? Are we not going to fight? Because there's going to have competing goals in this game.
Yeah.
And so that's something
PvP-ish
else.
PvP-ish kind of things.
Yeah. We're like, we can't kill each other, but maybe we have competing goals. And
but
so
we
that
could
kind of segues
burn
into my
houses
next
down
bullet
and
point.
fuck up End of Line's experience. We could do things like that.
Sorry. And that was
you know what?
totally
Shut
me,
your
and I
whore
felt
mouth.
so bad about it.
To me too.
Stole my XP.
You stole my XP. You killed that. Anyway. No, but that is exactly when Night Sun came to us and was like, "This is the game I'm going to run."
Mm-hmm.
How does this sound? Is anyone going to be upset by the fact that you may have opposing goals and one of you is going to fail at your goal? You can't save someone and kill someone and both of you succeed. So someone's going to lose.
Unless you have resurrection.
Is everyone going to be okay with this kind of game? And so going into it, we had that conversation that was like, yeah, End of Line and I are going to have opposing goals and are going to be pissed at each other from week to week in game, but once we walk away from the table, once we're not those characters, fuck you. That it was like, oh my god, I can't believe you did that in a funny way, not like fuck you, I can't talk to you for a week. Like that's you know,
But
we
you
had
should
that
never,
initial conversation.
and you shouldn't presume that because it's cool for you and it's cool for someone else, that it's cool for
Right.
everyone. That dialogue needs to take place. If for
Right.
no other reason than you could say, hey, we had a conversation about this. We explained how this was gonna work. You know.
Yeah. Well-
I think another example of this is there was a campaign that I ran years and years and years ago, and a friend of ours, a female friend of ours, and Kurt's character were sort of kind of developing a relationship in the game. Not them,
Mhm.
not outside of game, but in game, it made sense that their characters were kind of gravitating towards each other.
Mhm.
And this person came to me and said, "Do you feel uncomfortable with the fact that this is going to be happening in game?" And we were able to have this conversation that was like, as long as it stays in game and you guys, you know, very much have
Mhm.
a curtain blows through, or wind blows through the curtain when it's like you go into his bedroom or whatever at the end of an adventure, I'm totally okay with you guys having this kind of relationship in game. That doesn't make me feel uncomfortable. And then we also had that conversation, the three of us together, to make sure that it didn't make the table uncomfortable,
Right.
that this relationship was developing in the RPG, and everybody was okay with it as long as we didn't get like overly, you know, clear about what was happening.
And keep the LARPing to a minimum.
Oh, definitely
No
keep the
LARPing. Zero.
no touching.
Zero sexy LARPing.
Stay on the other side of the table. that it was very much like, and I go in the room and close the door, and now it's
I
morning.
mean, there was a lot of like someone would come to our room, and then the other character would just be in like establish that they were already in the room.
She's like, I come out of the bathroom in a towel, so I'm
Yeah.
also in his room.
Right.
And it made sense that she would be there. And we had this conversation as a table that this is not going to make anybody uncomfortable. But it could have definitely been uncomfortable for anyone at the table if we hadn't had that conversation. Like, this is going to be an element in this game. Is this okay with everybody that this relationship is going to exist? And it was fine.
I think that's a good segue into safety tools, because even if you talk about everything beforehand, do all the things that we just talked about, you set expectations. No one is 100% sure what is on the table with other people. So if something does come up, there's some tools you can use to sort of like stop the action, back things up, and I'm a particular fan of something called Script Change, which is by Bree. I forgot her last name. His last name. If you go to brieecs.com, I think you can find, or just Google Script Change, it should come up. But yeah, they came up with this awesome tool that kind of encompasses a lot of the other safety tools that are sort of out there. A lot of people have mentioned the X card before, which is you just sort of like draw an X on a card, put it in the middle of the table. If anybody feels uncomfortable, you tap the X, and then the scene ends. No, you don't have to discuss it. We just move on, right? There's also some things called like lines and veils, where you establish like these are hard lines. I don't want these to show up in the game. Things that are veils, like a curtain blows, like sex is usually a veil for me, right? Like I want that behind and we fade to black. But so Script Change incorporates all that stuff. So what it wants you to do is first establish the things that you'd like to avoid and things you'd like to include in the game. Personally, for me, sexual violence is always in my avoid. It's always a hard line. I don't need rape in my games. And I think a lot of other people feel the same.
Yeah. What possible mechanic could that serve that couldn't be done another way? There isn't.
Yeah, I mean, have them kick a puppy. I don't know what
there's a million other opportunities to serve the same mechanical purpose than to have that in a game. There's no reason to.
I'm not saying, like, if everyone at the table is into that kind of thing or explore those themes, maybe you're trying to get over something and you want some exposure therapy, go for it. But everyone needs to be okay with those kinds of themes being in your game.
I think an example is like we were saying, my character owns a brothel and has a bunch of whores, and Restez's character technically lives there as one of my guards, but we've established that as payment he can just kind of do whoever he wants. But we've never actually talked about that. It's just like, yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
We're not going to actually talk about that, but that's a thing that's happening, right?
So it's also really helpful if you can provide an anonymous way for people to add to this list. Like make a Google Doc, send out a link that doesn't require them to log in, and just let people add to it. That way they don't have to own up if they're like, you know what, I can't talk
smart.
about
That's smart.
dad's dying, right? Like it's just not okay. And they can anonymously put that in there, and then everybody knows kill any dads in this game.
That's gonna be real hard because I mean,
usually if it's an RPG game, their dad is already dead.
that's true. We're all orphans, guys.
But
But you come up with that orc encampment. A good portion of them might be fathers.
That is very true.
Right.
That's gonna be
Right.
real hard to.
In most of our fantasy games, pretty much everybody over the age of 25 is probably
That's some
assumed to be a
children.
dad.
Yeah.
Right.
What if
That's a
you
lot.
zombie enslave the dad?
Yeah. Kurt.
that's another one. Loss of agency, right?
Oh,
Like some people are not okay with the with mind control and loss of agency. So
But puppet is the best spell in
Give-
Savage Worlds.
give people the option to add things to that list and to do it anonymously if you can.
Yeah, the Google Doc
The
is
other-
actually really smart.
That's
Yeah.
a really good idea.
I feel like I
Um,
want to add loss of agency to the list of things that the DM cannot do to my character.
Well, but then it would also be off the table for NPCs, right? Like you couldn't take the agency away from the NPCs. So, on the flip side of this, you can also say things that you really want to include in this game, like, oh, I want to have a daughter, and I really want to have family obligation be an important part of this, or I'm going to do a lone wolf and cub thing, and I want this to be an issue for my character, or I really want to have like huge epic moments where we slay the dragon and the whole town, like we want to have those kinds of moments. I want to tell hero stories. So those are some things you might want to include. I'm going to quickly touch on before we have to wrap up for our next thing. During the game, there are 3 tools you can use to sort of rewind, fast forward, or pause the action. Rewind is sort of a retcon mechanic. If something just happened and you are totally not okay with it and you don't want it to be canon in the game, you just say rewind. And then every action stops. Everyone asks, okay, what was it? You back up to the point at which the content was put in, and you just remove that content and move on as if that had not happened. Fast forward is the fade to black. So it's getting a little too steamy, or the torture scene is getting a little rough. You just fast forward and we just skip, right? Or someone's like going on and on about the color and sheen of their sword. Fast forward, right? Like we don't need to know. Someone's shopping. Fast forward, right? Pause.
But
Some games
shopping
would
games are
disappear.
the most fun.
Well, whatever moment you discuss it as a group.
No, Gordon, shopping games are not disappearing.
Pause is I need a moment, right? Like you're not opposed to the content that was just entered into the game, but maybe you're not you need a moment to process it, or you want to take a second and really break down what just happened so you can understand it. Just say pause, and the action stops, and we talk as people at the table about what just happened and why we need to pause, right? Don't pressure the person who engaged these tools into explaining themselves. Give them the moment that they need, and try to respect each other. If someone needs to engage these tools, they're probably a little overwhelmed, or maybe there's something that they don't feel like they can talk about.
Bringing
You
it
can
up
also
in a
print out-
discussion is just going to make it worse. Like it's just
Yeah,
going to exacerbate the issue.
Definitely don't pressure them. And if someone is engaging these rules and they're having an emotional moment, be there for them. Like you're people, you're humans. Use that empathy. And if you don't have empathy, maybe read a book about empathy, and then just try to be nice to them.
I think the only thing I
I've
would
read
add
a lot
to
of books. There's no empathy in any of them. That means
I've-
we're good.
I have read a lot of books, and there's empathy in all of mine. So,
All right.
no, I think what I'd like to add to that, though, is at your own table, create what you feel comfortable with as your pause mechanic that takes you out of the we're talking in character, we're talking as ourselves. Because I think that in the example Kurt gave at the beginning would have solved a lot of problems. In the my character is mad at your character, not me as a person is mad at you as a person. And so having whatever signal it is to say, like, hey, this argument in character is starting to affect me out of character. We need to step out of character and talk about this. I mean, at our house, we put our hand on our head, and that's how we know, like, hey, we've been talking in character this whole time, right? 'Cause
You're a
this is
dick.
me not. You're a dick, right? No, but that's have something set up at your table that is very definitive. Like, we have stepped out of our characters, we've stepped out of our P, and we are now ourselves as people, so that you're not having these arguments and then ruining friendships like this group did with themselves because they didn't have anything established to say this argument is happening as characters, not as people.
Yep. All right.
That's how
I
you
would
ruin
just like
friendships.
to say that the fast forward mechanic is bullshit because our Traveler game turned into a shopping game and they fast forwarded it right to the end of that campaign.
That is true. That is true.
I mean, technically, we could pick back up with spreadsheets again if you want. The
If
problem
you're
with that game
in
was not
space.
fast forward; it was board GM. That's what happened with that game.
If your
In-
GM starts
in
looking at
space.
licensing for Microsoft Access to run a tabletop game, there's a problem.
Hey, it wasn't me; it was you guys. I was running RP. You guys were like,
Like, we need QuickBooks and ledgers.
All
All right. Well, I think that's got to wrap up our time here. We've got to prepare for our next up, our RPG that we're going to be streaming. So, Matt, have you written us an outro?
Nope.
God damn it, man.
Well,
You're
I think that's-
worthless! Oh, I'm sorry. I got to be nice to him today.
I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
bad because he hasn't gotten to talk a lot because he doesn't. have
You're not worthless.
Topic,
Matt.
Use
but-
You're
the
not
safety
worthless
tools,
today.
Matt.
After
Yeah, you
today.
Use the X cards.
Okay.
Matt, do you have an outro? X card.
Yeah.
Don't ask me about that anymore.
Also, you guys are dicks.
That is true.
That is fair.
That is true.
That is
I mean,
fair.
fair. That is a fair.
That is a fair,
That-
out of character comment.
That logic is sound.
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
Well,
so
I think
we
we're
will-
gonna take about a 5-minute break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back for Dungeon World.
Yay.
See you guys.
I'll be playing a bard.
Thanks for watching.
Everyone's playing a bard. Bye, everybody.
Yeah,
We'll see you
it's
guys
all
in like
bards.
5 minutes for Dungeon World if you're hanging
Yep.
out.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.